The event organizers and speakers will follow up with you after the event, so don't worry. Now over to our session moderator, Professor of Marketing and co-founder of Brightside Produce, Iana Castro.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. We are really excited to have the opportunity to share with you snapshots of different projects that are currently addressing different topics within sustainability. The format of the presentations from our faculty will be lightning talks, which means that they will have approximately 5 minutes to talk about their project, so you will be exposed to a number of different projects happening around campus. What's unique about these projects is that they also have a big student component, so a lot of the work that will be presented today was either done by students or in collaboration with students. So I'm going to go ahead and welcome up our first group of presenters.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Chubia Flores Renteria, and I'm very happy to be here with you today. I want to thank the President de la Torre and the Advisory Committee for organizing this and for providing us the opportunity to present to all of you today. Thank you very much for being here. So the title of our presentation is Expanding and Diversifying Education in Sustainable Food Systems. The work that we do is very important because we are addressing environmental and social issues related to food systems. And that is a sustainability issue. We are aiming at securing foods that are safe, nutritious, and sufficient in our region. And we are doing that, but also ensuring that we are not threatening biodiversity, natural resources such as water, but also by making sure that we produce healthy soils. That's very important. So we are trying to do that by sequestering carbon into the soils. And that will reduce the impact that agriculture has or the contribution that it has to climate change. In other words, we're creating better food futures, right? So I'm supposed to advance this, and I actually don't know how. So just help. Yeah, we are missing. If someone can advance our slide, that would be very helpful. In this talk, we're going to be guiding you, or we're going to be talking about who we are, our focus, our goals, but we're also be talking about the many activities that we're doing, and these activities are perfectly aligned and intentionally aligned to the strategic plan that our university has, right? So for example, at our core, we have our students in anything that we're doing. We're providing with funding, with experiential learning, training them to address global, regional, and local issues, right? We are also doing, increasing our collaborations with Mexican institutions and universities. And by doing all of this, we are also ensuring that we become an R1 institution. If we can go to the next, please. It is my privilege to be leading this group of amazing faculty. They are very experts, and it has a multidisciplinary approach our team has. We have people from 4 different colleges and many departments, such as biology, chemistry, nutrition and exercise, anthropology, business, and I hope that I'm not missing any. What? Oh, she said good job. Okay. So if we can advance, before that, we are also collaborating with Mesa College, and we are promoting the transfer of students into our university with the Mesa Community College. What brings us together is our desire to support our students, but also to develop sustainable approaches. Next. Our team has been very successful at securing funds from the US Department of Agriculture. We have many grants, and we're just displaying here 2 of the most inclusive that we have. We have recently secured $5 million to fit the goals to expanding and diversifying careers and sustainable food systems along the Mexican and US border. This is a 5-year grant, and it's building upon another grant that we secured $1 million for the binational approaches to sustainable food systems. What this is pointing out is the relevance of our work in our region. And I like to emphasize that work that in our region because San Diego County is the county with the highest number of urban small farms and also organic farms. And at the same time, is the county with the highest biodiversity in the whole nation. So we have the responsibility to preserve our biodiversity and at the same time producing the food for our people. 9% of our people are food insecure. And the agricultural systems in here produce 1.7 billion. So it's a large industry. So we need to keep working to ensure that we are doing a good job here. Despite of these facts, we don't have an agricultural university in San Diego County, and we're trying to fill that gap. Next, please. Our goals are to recruit, support, thank you, and train food, agricultural, and natural resources scientists and leaders. We also want to diversify the workforce to increase access to successful careers in food, agricultural, and natural resources. And I cannot read the last one. To help create more sustainable and equitable food futures. Okay, next one, please. Oh, yes. Still, I don't know how to use it next. Oh, yeah, with the, good, thank you. We are bridging, our focus is to bridge environmental sciences and social sciences, and also the economics of it. So we are doing this together to regenerate healthy soils. And we are restoring biodiversity, improving water quality and availability, and mitigating climate change. And at the same time, we're promoting health and sustainable diets, encouraging participation in decision making, and of course, we are incorporating the economics on that. With that, I'm gonna pass it to my colleague, Dr. Marcelli.
I'm just going to continue on. So how do we do that? How do we train the future generation of scientists who are going to be addressing the challenges in the food system? Most of our focus is on experiential learning. So we are creating classes, we are promoting undergraduate and graduate research, and we've created a number of internships. And of course, we're supporting our students through that process, both financially, but also in terms of mentorship. And we're doing that through engagement. We wouldn't be able to do that alone. We have a lot of partners, both on campus. We work with a lot of student services groups. We have federal partners like the USDA, of course. We have a lot of community partners, both locally in terms of nonprofits, schools, but we're also working with tribes. We have academic institutions, both in the United States and in Mexico. So we really have a big team to recruit students and to provide opportunities for research and internship. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the education that we're doing, some of the courses. We've developed 2 interdisciplinary team-taught courses. One is Cal 400 that we're teaching right now, and that's focusing on solutions on both sides of the borders to build more sustainable food futures. And then we have a sustainable agriculture course as well that's also being taught right now and will be taught again next spring. In addition, we have smaller classes that work over 2 semesters. One semester we have a class, and then we recruit students from that class to continue to do research the following semester as an independent research project. And so, for example, my class, in the fall, we were looking at urban agriculture in San Diego and issues of environmental justice and soil. And then this semester, I have 7 students who are working with me. They funded through our grants to continue to do research, and they learn to present at conferences, and they're working towards publication. And Yuvia's going to talk about the internship.
Yeah, we are very excited also because we are providing opportunities for our students during the summer. And we have short internships and long internships. So we, for example, provide with stipends for students to attend these internships, and also we pay for anything when we travel abroad. So we have 2 internships that we take students to Baja California, and another one in Oaxaca. And for students who cannot travel abroad, we also have opportunities here in-house. And we also have longer internships that are the whole summer, and for that, students get in-depth training and they travel to California, for example, and to the USDA agencies as well. So I'll pass it now to Dr. Yu.
Yeah, so students involved in our classes, internships, and independent studies learn valuable skills by working on research projects, presenting their findings at the conferences, as well as preparing manuscripts for publications. I'm going to give you a few examples of food science-related research projects. We have been exploring sustainable food sources such as edible insects, microalgae. We are developing vegan seafood flavors for seafood analogs, and also working with NASA to formulate space food for astronauts, which at the same time will help reduce food waste on Earth. In collaboration with Dr. John Love in biochemistry, we are going to milk bacteria, and I think his student Sierra is presenting a poster in the back. We are also studying hydroponic food production as well as sustainable farming, indigenous farming practices such as milpa. These are just some food science-related examples. As shown earlier, we have an interdisciplinary team that allows students to explore a wide range of research topics. We have Cameron from environmental science presenting another study on urban agriculture. And to facilitate these interdisciplinary collaborations and provide networking opportunities, we host at least 3 colloquia each semester. And these gatherings feature renowned speakers from various disciplines to discuss different aspects of the food system.
Just to conclude, our grants together provide a lot of funding opportunities for students. We have undergraduate scholarships, we have graduate stipends for master's and PhD students, and we have fully funded summer internship, whether they're the 2 weeks internship or 8 weeks internship. Your travel expenses to Mexico, for example, would be covered. And so I encourage you to come and check out our table. We have a table for the Center for Better Food Futures and for the food studies minor as well that many of our students enroll in because they can get credit and advertise their interest in food and sustainability. So feel free to connect with us if you have any questions. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
That's a tough act to follow. That was really impressive work going on here in campus in San Diego. Thank you for the opportunity for me to share a little bit about a project that my students and I have been working on with a community partner for the last 1.5 years or so. I'm Amanda McLean. I'm an assistant professor of nutrition in the School of Exercise and Nutritional Sciences, which is in the College of Health and Human Services. So lack of access to healthy food and high rates of poverty continue to burden certain communities more than others because of historical marginalization. Here in San Diego, one of those communities is southeastern San Diego, which is outlined here in blue. And I'll kind of sum up what you're seeing on this map. Essentially, what you see within that blue outline is that the greater concentration of those larger red dots indicates a greater number of people in poverty with low food access. The green dots, the greater concentration of larger green dots indicates a greater number of people in poverty with higher food access. And then those lighter shades of green demonstrate fewer supermarkets within a 1-mile walk radius, and paler shades of yellow demonstrate fewer supermarkets within a 10-minute drive. And you can see within that blue outline, there's only 3 supermarkets serving southeastern San Diego. And so collectively, this map really visualizes and demonstrates the lack of access to food and the prevalence of poverty within or experienced by the residents of southeastern San Diego. And as a result of this poverty and inadequate access to food, the residents of southeastern San Diego also experience a high prevalence of nutrition-related chronic diseases, which negatively impact their livelihood, as well as the well-being of their families and communities, as well as our healthcare system. In response, a solution was developed to begin to address this problem of inadequate access to healthy food. This is the People's Produce Mobile Farmers Market. Initiated in October of 2022, the People's Produce Mobile Farmers Market travels to various community sites around southeastern San Diego each week, stocked with fresh, local, and affordable produce from local farms. And most, if not all, of the produce comes from local organic farms here in San Diego County, so really reducing our footprint, with an increasing proportion of those fruits and vegetables being produced right in southeastern San Diego itself, from backyard gardens as well as community gardens. And customers that visit that farmer's market also have opportunities to receive a $10 coupon, which I'll tell you a little bit about in a minute. The market is operated and managed by the southeastern San Diego-based grassroots nonprofit, Project New Village, which seeks to improve neighborhood food supply, stimulate collective investment in the health of their community, and maximize the impact of investment to address the social inequities that I talked about earlier, and many more that I didn't cover. The Mobile Farmers Market is just one of the initiatives to promote food sovereignty in southeastern San Diego, but it's connected to the others, which include but are not limited to developing a backyard growers network and increasing the number of community gardens. And this partnership between SDSU and the People's Produce Mobile Farmers Market wouldn't be possible without the students from SDSU, who are developing and delivering nutrition education sessions and conducting surveys with customers at the markets. When customers participate in these nutrition education sessions and surveys, they can receive a $10 coupon to redeem at the market. And most of these students are undergraduate nutrition students from my community nutrition course. But I also have engaged undergraduate and graduate students across nutrition, as well as 2 summer undergraduate research program students, one from public health and one from social sciences. In our 4th quarter of last year, 2023, we provided nutrition education and surveys to 930 customers. And as you can see, the mobile farmers market is serving the residents most in need, with over 65% of our customers last quarter categorized as being food insecure or lacking consistent access to healthy foods. And southeastern San Diego is comprised of residents from diverse racial and ethnic backgrounds, and our customers reflect that, with over 80% identifying as non-white race and 35% identifying as Hispanic or Latinx. And so the People's Produce Mobile Farmers Market won't completely solve the food access issues of southeastern San Diego, but it is a critical factor in building food sovereignty in this historically marginalized area of our county. And for more information, you can scan the QR code on the left. It takes you right to the mobile farmers market page. And then on the right is a little bit more about the projects that my students and I are working on.
Sorry guys, this should be easier. There's just one button here. There it is. All right. Hi, everybody. Good morning. My name is Rebecca D'Souza. I'm an associate professor in the School of Communication, and my area of research is critical health communication. My current work focuses on exploring the intersections between food, health, and politics. A motivating force of my work is food justice. And what is food justice? It means ensuring that the benefits and risks of where, what, and how food is grown and produced, transported and distributed, accessed and eaten are shared fairly. My work focuses mainly on the access and eating part. I'm really interested in understanding where and how people get their food, what food they eat, and how all of this impacts their life and life chances. So it follows really well from the presentation that Dr. Amanda Fuller just gave as well. And all of this is important because food is a social determinant of health. And what this basically means is that food is one of the factors, a non-medical factor, that impacts mental and physical health. Now, this was the focus of my book, Feeding the Other, Whiteness, Privilege, and Neoliberal Stigma in Food Pantries, as well as my ongoing research. I focus on class, gender, and racial dynamics with the ultimate goal of understanding how we can transform the food system through the voices of those who enter through the back door. My work is guided by critical, cultural, and feminist theories. And here are some of the research questions that I've asked in the last few years. Who is silenced and who is privileged in the food system? How does gender shape women's experiences of hunger? How does neoliberalism, which is a political economic theory that we're living with, shape everyday eating practices, identities, and subjectivities of actors? In terms of method, I tend to use ethnographic and qualitative research methods, and this involves interviews, focus groups, participant observations. I tend to spend a lot of time in food pantry spaces and anti-hunger communities, and also advocacy groups, and I talk to people, listen to what they have to say, talk to the organizers, and try to get a sense of how this all is fitting together. So now, how can students get involved? So if we think of the research process as having 4 broad stages, right? Developing the research question, collecting data, analyzing the data, and writing it up. Now, of course, in ethnographic research, it doesn't occur in such a linear way, and they can be cyclical. But I invite students typically to be part of any of these stages that they wish to, that they're motivated and interested in. So for example, on the next slide, you'll see one of the questions that I'm currently trying to answer is this question of how does neoliberalism shape everyday eating practices, identities, and subjectivities? Neoliberalism, as I said, is an economic theory. It's basically capitalism on speed. That's the short way of understanding it. So I have students going into the community. We talk to people. We do interviews and focus groups. I also have students who are part of analyzing that data and trying to figure out what some patterns are, what is emerging from these conversations. And I currently have a grad student who's helping me analyze this data and put it together for publication. Now, one of the things that's not on the slides, but is equally important to say at a summit like this, is that what I do with all of this work is I feed it into policy circles. So my role is sort of to be the connective tissue between what goes on in research and connect it to broader national and global advocacy circuits. So here's an example of what I want to show you from the interview data that we collected, and I'm giving this to you to give you a snapshot of my day-to-day. We asked Daisy, an 18-year-old white female participant, how does food affect your mental health? And here's what she says. I know that when my mental health is worse, I've either restricted food or eaten an excessive amount of food, depending on what stage of life I was going through. At one point, when my mental health was bad, I wasn't eating any food or nourishing my body. And then there was a point in time where I was feeling really stressed and I was going through something and I would overeat bad foods, and that would make me feel really bad about myself, which would decrease my mental health. So here we see food articulated as a social determinant of health, with a link between food and mental and physical health. We learned from the interview that Daisy struggles with accessing good food and making ends meet. She is one of those individuals who lives in a food desert, or what activists like to say, conditions created by food apartheid in the San Diego region. So this is a constant cycle of stress of being able to access good food, eating bad food, and feeling bad. And this was a daily struggle for her and many other participants. And this is an example of the mind, food, body, environment connection that we saw repeatedly across the interviews. And in the research, what we'll do then is we'll use these excerpts as a data point to explore people's relationship to food in an environment where we are surrounded by multiple healthy eating discourses, right, and eating good food discourses, but we oftentimes lack the material resources to engage in those good food practices. So then this is a question of food justice and how the benefits and risks of how food are accessed and eaten are not shared fairly. This kind of stress disproportionately affects low-income folks, women, and racial minorities. So if you or anyone in this room is interested in talking more about questions of food justice and social and political environments and how all of that sort of comes together, then I welcome your questions and I look forward to talking to you more.
All right, hello everyone. Just to make sure we're on time for Anna, I'm gonna hit start on my timer. Big green button. Is that it? Okay. Moving from food, which is a wonderful topic, thank you all so much. We're gonna talk about everybody's favorite topic, which is energy and power loss. There will be a connection, I promise. I just want to acknowledge my collaborator, Senate Distinguished Professor, Dr. Linda Cornelis. Yeah, round of applause. So next slide, I guess I can look down here, I don't need to look up. So what is a public safety power shutoff? Essentially during dry and windy events, utilities will shut off power to homes, businesses, all of the customers on a certain circuit within a region that they think has the potential to spark a wildfire. They've been doing this since 2013. And since then, roughly 9 billion customer outage minutes. So it's an extensive de-energization events. Most events last approximately 2 days. Some events go to 6+ days. So the people that are experiencing these things have a ton of issues related to that power loss event, and they're not evenly distributed. Who in here has been affected by a power loss event related to PSPS event? Okay, PSPS specific. They will tell you, the utilities have to tell you now. Very few of you. Yeah, so urban environments are often not impacted in the same way that customers in this kind of like rural or urban wildlife interface are. And so some of these communities are really experiencing what are called chronic power loss events. And as extreme weather becomes the status quo due to climate change, we're seeing more and more of these events happening across the country. Okay. So disinvested, disadvantaged, marginalized communities really tend to be the most impacted by these events, by the power outages, by the pollution that's caused by backup generators. You know, many of them rely on fossil fuels, so think diesel, and then the chronic underinvestment in critical infrastructure in these communities makes this problem even worse. At the household level, these disinvested communities face many issues related to the businesses that they work at close, and many of them are hourly employees, which means they can't go to work, they can't earn a living. Food in their refrigerator spoils, right? So we're losing food, or they're having to eat food at the first day, which means they maybe not have food for the rest of the, I told you I'd bring it back to food. They maybe don't have food for the rest of the week, the rest of the month. They are having to stretch their income that is already limited by the loss of going to work. And then food banks and schools, often the location where the children and families are most served, they also are impacted by power loss, by the loss and food spoilage related to not having power to cool and refrigerate their meals. So the elderly, the ill, and the disabled are often additionally impacted. This means medications that need to be refrigerated can't be refrigerated. This means electrified durable medical equipment loses power. They are often given diesel generators by the utility, but many of them can't operate or maintain that generator. So how do we solve that issue? So this is just a brief overview of the impact. I feel like I could talk about this for a long time, but noting my timer, I only have a few minutes left. Next. Oh, wrong one. There's two up here. Maybe that's why. So this is one of our awards, and it's the impact of public safety power shutoffs on disinvested communities. It's from the Department of Energy and the Minority Serving Institution Research and Development Consortium. Our goal is to create 5 case studies that will be used to inform the Department of Energy's investment portfolio. And so we're looking at, California Native American tribes, medical baseline customers, the economic impact of power loss in disinvested communities at both the community level and the household level, looking at resiliency solutions and investments by the state of California into these communities. Unfortunately, most of them are generators and fossil fuel related, and then what a modern grid can look like that serves the needs of our customers in our region and our communities. So these are all of our students. We have 5 current active students from the College of Business. We've had a few other students from the College of Business through the Summer Undergraduate Research Program. This is one of 7 active awards we have in the Office of Economic Development and the Division of Research and Innovation, managing about $22 million at the moment. So there's a lot of opportunity for engagement. If you have questions, here's our contact information, and thank you all so much. Oh, and next is Dr. Megan Welsh, who's coming up to talk about, I'm assuming, wildfire. Oh, toilets, sorry, wildfire, I was thinking.
There's 2 here. Take it away. Good morning, everyone. Hi. I'm going to talk to you about toilets today, not wildfires. So all these lovely presentations about food systems, thank you all, the importance of power and utilities. What I'd like to ask you to think about for a minute is your own access to sanitation. Did you take a shower today? If so, where did you take it? Did you use a toilet? If you did, where was that toilet? Who owns that toilet? Do you have 24/7 access to that toilet? If your answer is yes, you're fortunate. There are thousands of people in San Diego and millions of people across the US who don't know where their next drink of clean water, where their next use of a toilet, where their next shower is going to come from. And if they're part of half of the population that menstruates, they may not know where they're going to get that next menstrual hygiene resource. So hi, everyone. My name is Megan Welsh Carroll. I'm an associate professor in the School of Public Affairs. So I teach in our criminal justice and public administration programs. But here today, I'm representing the Project for Sanitation Justice, which I co-founded and am currently directing since 2020. So who are we and what do we do? We are a group of very passionate students and faculty at SDSU who work alongside our community partners, primarily Think Dignity, which is a grassroots homelessness advocacy and empowerment organization, and Planned Parenthood of the Pacific Southwest. We engage in transdisciplinary, highly interdisciplinary research solely to provide answers, feasible, practical recommendations for how to increase access, namely to toilets, but also to drinking water and other vital sanitation and hygiene resources that allow all of us to stay human. What have we been doing? Well, we started as a pandemic project. So originally in the fall of 2020, I was going to be out with my students at Think Dignity events, which you see right behind me. They run the Fresh Start Showers program, so we were going to be interviewing Think Dignity guests on their experiences trying to access public sanitation. But a little thing called COVID happened, and so we pivoted. Think Dignity had a main question about where public restrooms exist in San Diego County. We couldn't even find that information. And we were hearing from folks experiencing homelessness during the pandemic that restrooms were being closed and that they really couldn't find places to meet their needs. So we started by mapping all the public restrooms in San Diego County. That public web map is available on our website, bathrooms.sdsu.edu. And we are constantly striving to keep this information up to date because we have noticed that this is not a priority for local governments. And so we want to make it a priority and make that information publicly accessible. Our central goal in all of our work is to produce data-driven policy recommendations to strategically increase access to toilets and other sanitation resources. So we're constantly looking for ways to get our findings from our map and from other activities that we've done when it was safe to go out, back out doing field research with students. We had students immediately assessing public restrooms. Is there toilet paper? Is there soap? Are there menstrual hygiene products available? And so we document all of that, and we have reliable data on what's happening in the city of San Diego and across San Diego County. We're constantly looking for opportunities to get our data into the hands of policymakers. We were thrilled to be able to publish an op-ed in the LA Times about a year ago, and we're always looking for more opportunities to get our work into the public sphere. Lastly, I want to leave you with some of the words and experiences that homeless San Diegans have shared with us when it was finally safe after the coronavirus to be able for our students to be out interviewing unhoused San Diegans who have significant health risks and concerns related to COVID and other things, you know. So we were masking up to be able to interview folks. Folks shared heartbreaking stories with us. One gentleman's story that always sticks with me is that he shared with us that where he stays, unsheltered in San Diego, requires him to stop eating and drinking by 4 p.m. every day because he does not have overnight access to a toilet. We also heard folks share with us that they feel tethered to their restroom. There are very few restrooms, especially in downtown San Diego, where a large proportion of folks who are unsheltered stay because that is where the service providers are. There are only 2 24/7 toilets, public restrooms in downtown San Diego. There are between 1,500 and 2,000 folks who stay on our streets in downtown San Diego. And so when you calculate a ratio of toilets to humans, we get a very grim number. We have approximately 1 permanent public toilet available to every 200 to 215 folks living unhoused on our streets, and that doesn't include everyone else. Those of us who enjoy using public space also rely on these facilities. So I just want to share one funded project with you that we currently have underway. We are partnering with the California Department of Public Health on a project specifically to try to increase and identify practical ways of increasing access to water, sanitation, and hygiene for unhoused Californians. So this is a statewide project. We have our work cut out for us because different WASH interventions are appropriate in different contexts. So, and California is an enormous state with a lot of different urban, suburban, and rural needs around this. So we're interviewing folks up and down the state. We are looking at the empirical literature on this topic. Spoiler alert, there is not much research about the need for WASH in US contexts. So we're trying to really lead the way there. And out of this project, we are going to be developing a 10-page, this is gonna be hard, right? Academics are long-winded. 10-page guidance document that we're going to hand over to the state of California with all the ideas that we've been able to compile over the past several years regarding how to increase access, especially for unhoused communities. I want to wrap up by saying that this topic, as I've alluded to, is not super fundable in the US right now. And we are going to continue to do it with that knowledge and with that awareness. Globally, men, women, and children are still dying at an unacceptable rate from preventable transmissible diseases that we can be stopped by consistent access, especially to toilets. We've known for thousands of years that poop spreads disease. Unfortunately, in this moment, we're exporting most of our brilliant ideas to other countries who rightfully need to learn from our WASH technology. My pitch to you, though, is that we have folks in our country who also need these services, and the Project for Sanitation Justice is trying to move the needle on that. So if anyone would like to collaborate on this crazy project to make toilets more accessible to everyone, I would love to hear from you. Thank you for your time.
Morning, everyone, and thank you for attending. My heart is somewhat close to toilets because I was a Peace Corps volunteer and I built a lot of latrines. But we're gonna talk about where all that toilet water eventually ends up, and that is the oceans, right? The big blue. And my name is Matt Lauer. I'm currently the chair in the Department of Anthropology. And I was also one of the founding members of the sustainability major here on campus, and so I've been part of the sustainability. Thank you. I've seen the movement grow from, well, I think there were no recycle cans when I arrived in 2007 to what we have today. So I've seen a lot of improvement, and it's so exciting. Yeah, so I'm gonna talk about a project that just recently started. It's an interdisciplinary project I can look down here. Primarily in Mexico and in the Pacific. And so we've named this project TEMPO, which has this kind of odd title, Temporal Eco-Social Management and Productivity of Oceans. And if any of you have been watching the news or listening, there's a major coral reef bleaching event occurring right now, one of the largest in the world. So this research is very pertinent to the current problems we see, especially in coral reefs. So today, over 500 million people depend on small-scale fisheries. This is primarily in the global south, right? So coastal peoples that harvest seafood in terms for their livelihood or subsistence or for other reasons. And there's been this long-running sort of simmering question about, can we protect the oceans and biodiversity and still harvest it sustainably? And so that's specifically what this research is focused on. So the most common form for Western scientists to effectively protect marine resources is through marine protected areas. And so for those of you who are from California, you probably know, and you're ocean people, that we have marine protected areas off the coast of California. And these are permanent areas where fishing and other activities are banned in perpetuity. The issue with these is they really don't work in the global south. So in order to have marine protected areas work, you need a strong state with a bureaucratic structure that is able to enforce the rules. And this simply does not work in most poor countries around the world. So the big question is how can we move forward in terms of biodiversity protection and some level of harvesting that's acceptable to local people? Because in the end, fishermen and fisherwomen are the ones who will need to enforce their own management rules. So TEMPO is looking into a new form of management that's bubbling up across the global south, and it's temporary fishery closures. So rather than closing areas for perpetuity and expecting the state and governments to enforce that, temporary forms of management close areas for a few years and then they open and then reclose. There's lots of different forms of it. So this is what we're exploring, and we think it's probably the most exciting new form of, well, it's not new, we'll find out in a second, form of management that's spreading throughout the Pacific and, in our case, in Mexico. So I'm not going to tap on this too much, but some of my colleagues have been able to show through modeling that temporary reserves, where you open and close, has long-term ecosystem benefits. And it's this idea of when you farm, you fallow, right? And that disturbance over the long term could have positive consequences that is enhances biodiversity more than permanent reserves. Pretty exciting. So this is an interdisciplinary project primarily with UC Santa Barbara, and we have anthropologists, ecologists, and modelers, and then some, also, of course, some local partners in French Polynesia where much of my research is focused on. We have a whole slew of graduate students, both in ecology and anthropology and the social sciences and economics, and of course, some students that I'm really proud to be sponsoring in French Polynesia, some of the first female social scientists and ecologists to become trained in French Polynesia. So we have a whole bunch of different key questions, and I don't think I'm gonna have enough time to go through these, so let me just get to the fun stuff here real quick. Polynesians have actually had temporary forms of management for thousands of years before Europeans arrived in the Pacific, and it was called Rahui. And so the problem was during colonization,